What's going on, gamers? We got an interesting Q&A here by Digital Foundry, basically talking about why there has been a lack of Xbox support and what most people want to see regarding like comparisons and just coverage and what the results are, and how also they don't get review codes. And Oliver goes out of his way sometimes to still do it even when he doesn't get review codes, which he's pretty fair about. Obviously, John doesn't care much at all. I think a lot of people have noticed that before too, but he's more honest and blunt, and sometimes people can't handle his honesty. I've seen that. But it's also about like when you look at what gives you the best results, what works the best for your channel, even though you professionally covered Xbox before, the results are just not worth it, and there's only so much time in a day. And Oliver makes that very clear. John does too down in his other response that people just want to see PlayStation 5 and rather than Xbox because most people have way more PlayStation 5s. People want to see PSSR 2 coverage. That's the biggest thing right now. It's on fire. You know what I mean? People want to see Switch 2 coverage because they have a huge base and that are more alive, even for Switch 1. People want to see DLSS, and stuff like that. And in this clip, Digital Foundry makes it aware that people are just kind of moving on from Xbox in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't have the life that it used to. And it's not that we want that, but it's more like it's just not working. Because a lot of people were criticizing, thinking that there were being more PlayStation, but then it's more like, no, it's what they did. That's not Digital Foundry's fault. You know what I mean? No. That's a problem at Microsoft, and we're going to find out in this clip. And I want you guys to let me know what you think about this, because I can tell you right now too. I do love my comparisons. I do like to see Series X versus PSSR 2 because now we get to really see the difference here on what matters. So that's why I do other coverages like on L's page and stuff like that, and you guys get to see that. Like I did that with Crimson Desert because it's kind of there. But the Xbox viewership is tanking and low, and I've seen a lot of people that used to be covering Xbox big time realize they can't stay there. Look at Xbox Era; they had to shut down, right? So yeah, let's get into this and let's see what they have to say. Here we go, guys.
With Final Fantasy VII Remake in January, I might have included some Xbox coverage to that, but didn't get code before launch.
Right.
Also with Silent Hill F, I didn't get code before launch.
So right there, he's letting you know, I'm not getting a code from Microsoft, whereas like they probably don't want to give you one. But they'll probably do it for people that are probably supporting them or grifting, I guess you could say that in that sense, unless somebody's a genuine Xbox content creator. But he's making that clear right here. I'm not getting any codes. Otherwise, it would make it easier.
But in both of those cases, I showed up on DF Direct a few days later to say, hey, here's the Xbox version, and here's how it's different, and here's how it's interesting, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do at least try, and I think generally, at least speaking personally, I do generally get out that information about the Xbox version. It just might come in a different format. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, like, I don't think that people are all that interested, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation that we're covering predominantly, in the console comparison divide when it comes to current generation consoles. I think there's less emphasis on it. And I also think the technical comparisons are not that interesting at a time when, PS5, Series X, almost always very, very similar.
So what he's saying right there is very true. That's why you'll see PS5, PS5 Pro, and PC and Switch 2. And it's like, where's Xbox? And he's basically saying, well, why would I waste my time to go buy that version when the comparison is the same and they're not providing me that? Because PS5 and Xbox Series X are always identical. So people already know that. So they're not interested in that anymore. They're more interested in the PS5 and the PS5 Pro difference. The base is way more bigger and more alive. And they're interested in the Switch 2 because that has a different format of comparison and being a handheld as well and being taken on the go. And what can that do with DLSS versus PlayStation 5? How close can that get? You know what I mean? And then PS5 Pro now getting more PC comparisons is making a lot more sense. So when you look at it in that spectrum, he's like, yeah, from a worldwide perspective and from what's going on right now in the community, trending right now, and what most people wake up for, that's what you really need to do. I'm not going to go out of my way to cover Xbox. Oliver's a pretty fair guy. I'm pretty sure he's the type that went out and done that, and he has done that. So I don't see why Digital Foundry would get criticized for that, because that's actually common sense. It makes sense because that is what's going on. And the reason why Xbox is less compared to now is not their problem. That's a problem, like I said, at Microsoft. So let's continue.
Series S, sometimes it's a hatchet job, sometimes it's not. That's kind of interesting to see sometimes. The big exception to that, for me, at least at the moment, would be like PlayStation 5 Pro stuff, where oftentimes you're seeing very different image quality, very different kinds of ray tracing enabled on that console. And also, obviously, Switch 2, which has different upscaling. It's much lower power.
Correct.
It has all kinds of interesting efficiencies and interesting elements to it. It has 2 modes by default. You know, it has lots of different things going on there that do make it a more interesting console as well. But just the standard kind of like PS5 versus Xbox Series X, Series S thing, I think is a little bit less exciting at this point.
He's correct. It used to be a bigger thing when that war was a lot closer, right? And it was kind of more at the beginning of the era. Um, and it used to be a bigger thing when you felt like they were actually competing. Now it just doesn't feel that way. It has changed big time. Like that PlayStation versus Xbox feeling is nowhere near the same it used to be. And everybody knows that. And like he said, it does feel like a hatchet job. That's a lie. Like that's pretty obvious. Everybody knows this. So down here too on Oliver's post, he says new Digital Foundry responds to criticism why they don't cover Xbox versus PlayStation comparisons like they used to. It used to be a thing. They were one of the main ones that did it. They cite several reasons: lack of review codes, time, PS5 Pro is usually the best version, low viewership for Xbox. This is a little bit of a different take right here.
Let's move on. Question from Horizon of a New Day. He's not happy. Will you ever get around to covering the Xbox again? We get the Series S reliably when you want to compare Switch 2 graphics to something and say, wow, Switch 2 has new tech and looks so much better than the S. That's 6 years old. If the, whatever it is, Switch 2 didn't look better, well, Nintendo should be rightly ashamed of themselves. I get it. Low power versus low power and all that. I assumed we get Crimson Desert compare. Nah, we get we get PS5. Nah, we get PS5 deep dive, PS5 Pro deep dive, PC deep dive, and radio silence on a full comparison. But look, more PSSR 2 coverage, and we'll go back and look at every single game ever made on PS5 Pro that had PSSR used. Why? We get it. It looks better and it's a cool edition. Then again, Xbox, the Xbox feels dead. Microsoft has taken a pounding on on Windows 11 and AI. Everyone is leaving MS for Linux. Not really when you look at Steam numbers, but the Linux number is moving up there. Yeah, I kind of get the frustration, right?
Also, when doing...
So there's the thing. That guy asked that question. That's actually a very serious thing right now. And there are a good amount of people moving to Linux. Not, everybody. Windows still has a lot of people, but it's a concern because it's an identity issue with Microsoft right now and a public image issue. They even came out and admitted that when they did their fiscal results. Remember? They said that we're worried about our image right now, our identity. There's a lot of problems we need to fix. And like you were saying, PSSR 2 stuff is like, but dude, that's a new thing. It's making a huge improvement. It's exciting. It's not exciting looking at Xbox. And that is not a problem with Digital Foundry. That is a problem with Microsoft. It's them that got Xbox in the position that it's in. Digital Foundry doesn't run Microsoft or Xbox. Not covering exactly what works the best for them. And I think anybody else would. But they've been fair and done that for quite some time. Then you got comparisons on other channels too. If people knew about that, I just think that people just love watching Digital Foundry. It's a thing with it. There's a certain charm to them covering things from a highly intellectual bracket compared to certain other people. Not that that couldn't exist, but they've just been doing it for a while. And they have like 1.5 million people subscribing to them. They've done it for so long. People are used to that. But my thing is that they don't really have to do it if you really realize that the PS5 and the Series X versions are not really different. They're pretty much identical. So where are we going to get our real comparisons now? Well, I would like to see them show the difference between the Series X and the PSSR 2 PS5 Pro coverage. But then again, like he said, we have PS5 for that. And I'm not going out of my way if I'm not getting review codes. And I'd rather focus on the Switch because it has a different aspect. It's always going to be 2 setups, the handheld and the dock, and it's using DLSS, and it's a different approach. If we may be able to pull the Series S up for that, but then again, it just depends, right? So I want you guys to let me know what you think about that. Let's finish this off.
Videos, there's different types of videos that we do, right? And not every video is just a console comparison. I don't really do many console comparison videos these days, myself, for instance. And so when I want to just cover a game's tech as a standalone thing, you usually I like to pick the best console version just as sort of like a starting point. It's just like a weird personal preference, I guess. Like I often would use Xbox One X when I had the choice last generation, because that was the best of the bunch. And then this time, now that the PS5 Pro's out, it usually makes sense to go for that. And then on the comparison side, when there's an actual normal console comparison, then of course Xbox is there. As far as Switch 2 versus anything else, I mean, Oliver kind of makes the choice. He's done sometimes PS4 versus Switch 2,
Mm-hmm.
Series S versus Switch 2. I do think makes sense because they are comparable. Uh, it can be fun to throw in the upper end systems, but all of it just comes down to time, right? Like, like, and focus, time and focus. What kind of video do you want to make, and how much time do you have to make that?
True. And that's not the only thing Digital Foundry covers. They cover so much different stuff. They're testing 24/7. It takes a lot of time to put that together. So he has some pretty fair points here. I don't think they're being unfair. I think what happened to the Xbox console and historically to the Halo base and all that was kind of unfair. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think. Do you think what I said was off, or do you think that anything they said was off? I feel like anybody that probably had a problem is somebody that's probably only in the Xbox world. They probably got comfortable with their coverage and they liked it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying anything, right? So I think that's a pretty straight up fair statement. And yeah, I mean, would you think about seeing Magnus comparisons? It's like probably because it's a fixed PC aspect, right? We're going to see that. We're going to see other pages do that with the PS6, and you'll still include the PS5 Pro version if that's there, or if that's not, it won't. It just honestly depends. But I think it could get started again eventually. But remember, guys, there's other pages that do those type of comparisons, and I'm going to be one of them that can bring them up, where you see the Series X and the PSSR 2 differences, so that you can see the Series X versus PS5 Pro and how much the PS5 Pro has separated itself from the Series X now. Whereas before, people thought that could be something. I was like, but it's not like the Series X ever dumped on the PS5, so that means there was just something going on that they needed to fix, and they did with PSSR 2. Other than that, it's like they're not obligated to do that. Like I said, they're not getting the viewership, the results, the revenue that they probably want to see, and that's their choice. They're not wrong for that. They've done so much for the industry. They don't really owe anybody anything. I love Digital Foundry. So yeah, later, guys. Keep gaming no matter what platform you're on. No matter what platform you're on. I thought this was a subject that we definitely need to talk about. Later. Keep gaming.